What's going on, everybody? Got a solo episode for you. I want to chat with you about something that's been on my mind lately, and it's something that I used to listen to back in the day every Saturday morning. I don't know if y'all watch Saturday morning cartoons. That was one of my favorite things back in the day. I wake up Saturday morning as a kid. We had ABC's One Saturday Morning. There were other channels too that had cartoons and stuff, but I'd always watch One Saturday Morning. Loved it. Loved the genie from Aladdin that would come on, and I'll never forget what he said because it always resonated with me. He would say, "Great minds think alike." No, great minds think for themselves. And that always stuck with me. It always resonated with me. And I want to talk. I was sharing something with somebody recently, and when I shared it, it was something this individual hadn't heard before, right? And it was the stereotypical response of, man, that sounds like one of those conspiracy theories, right? Sounds like a conspiracy theory. And I wanted to just break down how we know things and talk about what we really know, because I think this is so fundamental to being a good leader, being a good friend, being a good effective communicator. If you don't have a clear understanding of truth, of right and wrong, and of yourself, and how you know what you know to be true, then you can really run into trouble, right? So I want to break this down. I know it's kind of an odd subject, but I want to just kind of ask you, conspiracy theory. What comes to mind when you think conspiracy theory? Well, for most people, and it sounds like this is what most people would think whenever they hear something that goes against what the vast majority of people that they know that are like them would know or share, or anything that's not a part of any mainstream narrative, any sort of independent idea, right? Great minds think alike. No, great minds think for themselves. Any sort of independent thought outside of a mainstream narrative, people very often will label it as that's, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Ooh, conspiring and conspiring. Like Joaquin Phoenix and Gladiator, right? What have you been doing, busy little bee? And they conspired and conspired. Ooh. So what does conspiracy even mean? What does conspire mean? Well, let's look at Merriam-Webster. What does it mean to conspire? To make an agreement with others. That's pretty much all it is. But it typically has a negative connotation, especially in secret, to do an unlawful act. Right? And then the definition 2 is to act together. So, what does it mean to conspire? What does it mean to have a conspiracy? Well, it just means you and other people acted together. You made a plan and did stuff. Ooh. When does that happen? That's how we get around the world, right? People conspire all the time in everything they do. You conspire to go on vacation with your family, right? Now, granted, that word conspire often has a negative connotation. You're typically breaking the law, right? Or doing something underhanded or in secret, right? So, not denying that oftentimes that word has a negative connotation, but it also means simply just to act together. So, people conspire all the time. That's how the world works. People act together. That's how we have governments. That's how we have churches. That's how we have schools. Groups of people get together and they act together, they make a plan, they conspire, and they do things, right? So theory, ooh, what's a theory? Well, it's a scientific term, right? You probably heard of the theory of, I don't even know. What are theories? Can't even remember my science days. Theory definition. Science. Ooh. A scientific theory is an explanation of an aspect of the natural world and universe that can be repeatedly tested and verified in accordance with scientific method using blah, 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 blah. Definition of theory. I don't want to explain it myself. I'd rather just get so a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to be explained. So, what's a theory? You're just explaining something that you've observed, right? So, hey, it's a conspiracy theory. It's like, hey, I saw these people doing this stuff. You think this? So, what I mean, conspiracy theories aren't bad. They're not false necessarily. They're not true necessarily. They're simply a observation, a sharing of information. So, that term, and I just want to highlight this point, it's used to dismiss ideas. So you share information and the person hasn't heard of it, doesn't really know what to say back, is like, man, this is way different than anything I've heard before in my circle with my people that are brainwashed like me. So you're a conspiracy theorist. Now I don't have to talk about it. You lose all credibility because you believe conspiracy theories. It's really an ad hominem, if y'all are familiar with rhetoric. Labeling someone a conspiracy theorist is intended, it's a very specific intention. It's ad hominem. It's to discredit you as a individual instead of having to talk about the thing you're actually talking about. And this is very important, right? Because if you're around closed people who either instantly dismiss, get defensive, cast doubt, mock, or attack your credibility, especially in response to just sharing information. I mean, maybe you're not even trying to convince it. I mean, like, you're just sharing stuff, right? Like, you don't even know. Maybe you're just bringing up something you heard, right? And you're not even trying to argue a point. You don't even have a point, right? It's just stuff, right? Conspiracy theory. It's, hey, I saw this happen. These people did this, is what I saw or heard, or, this is a theory of things that were observed. They instantly dismiss you, and these people are dangerous. And I'll tell you why. Because people that don't think for themselves, people that think like everybody else, are dangerous. They're very dangerous, and I want you to be wary of them. Right? When this big group of people starts not actually questioning things for themselves and begins to simply just, oh, this is what everyone else is doing, must be true. You don't follow everyone else. You're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. That is a scary place. And the reason I'm highlighting this is I was actually interviewing a doctor on my podcast recently. And this is an idea that just kind of came to, most of us think of doctors as very intelligent people, and they are. I'm not bashing doctors right now in any way. But what I've realized is when you go to school, there's a level of brainwashing that occurs in that. I guess it's not brainwashing, it's programming. It's kind of like people that watch a lot of TV. They call it TV programming for a reason. It actually programs you to think a certain way. And I want you to think about your conversations and just how often anything that comes out of your mouth is actually something that you haven't heard on TV or read in a book or were told by a family member. Think about things you actually speak or talk about. Sports. Oh, saw it on TV. News. Oh, saw it on TV. Maybe you're talking about leadership. Well, read it in a book, right? Maybe you're talking about your faith. No, read it in a book. Maybe you're talking about some other thing. Oh, I heard it in Bible study from, my pastor or whatever, right? Just think about how many things in your mind are original. And what you find is like none of them are. Everything you know was put in there, right? So if you are an individual like a doctor who, oh man, they're so smart. They went to school for like 8, 10, 12 years, right? They had programming for 3 times as long as you did in your adult life through their university and doctoral experience, right? They're probably the most brainwashed, programmed people around. How much did you actually question when you were in school? Did you read your history book and go, man, you think this really happened? Maybe I'll go read some other history texts and compare and see how much of what this is telling me matches these other history texts. Probably very few of you, if any, have ever done anything like that. And so if you're like me, your whole time through education, you were taught to, hey, memorize this stuff and regurgitate it on an exam. Uh-oh, you got them all wrong. That's bad. Everybody shame the stupid kid. And oh, the smart kids, they're great. Why? Because they're the best brainwashed, programmed follower people who memorized the stuff that they were told to memorize. I mean, that is our education system. It's crazy. Crazy. So when you're around a bunch of people or individuals that think like this, that think that you are a crazy conspiracy theorist because you're sharing an idea you might not even believe is true. You're just sharing information. Then those people are dangerous. They're dangerous people because they cannot independently think for themselves. Okay? That is a scary thing. That is Nazi Germany sort of stuff where, hey, do what you're told, good soldier, even if it goes against your morals and your ethics. And you may think that this is crazy talk, but I am telling you, this world is getting crazier by the day, and you need to know how to discern truth from fiction, conspiracy theory, false conspiracy theory from true conspiracy theory. It's not about what's a conspiracy theory and what's not. It's about what's true and what's not. And there's no way to get to the truth without testing, without searching, without seeking. The Bible says, seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be open unto you. Right? So another thing I want you to think about is these things that you know. How many times have you changed your mind? Have you ever changed your mind about something that you really thought you were right about for a long time, and then you woke up one day and were like, man, you know what? I've been totally wrong about this my whole life. I was totally wrong about that. I'll share one example. It came up recently in a conversation with one of my people in my network that I just met recently. Really cool girl. And we were talking about business and mindset. And one of the things that she brought up is how hard work doesn't pay off. And I'm sure many of you have heard your whole life, hard work pays off. Oh, hard work pays off. I can't tell you how many times I heard people, coaches, teachers, whatever. Oh, hard work pays off. Put in the work, right? So the part that they miss, and I'm not being critical of them. I get the intention. Everybody's got to work hard. Anybody who's successful works hard. I don't know anybody who's successful at anything without hard work. But the ones that actually are successful are doing the right work, which is really important, right? You can work hard and still not make it to where you want to be if you're not doing the right things, or there's way more to it than just hard work. And hard work does not necessarily pay off. So something as simple as that, right? I had that wrong in my head for the vast majority of my life. So if something as fundamental and simple as hard work pays off, I could have wrong for 2/3 of my existence. Don't you think maybe there's some things that you think are true right now that may not be true? And the question is, how do you know? How can you know what's true and what's not? Do you trust yourself? Everybody says believe in yourself. I don't believe in myself. I believe in God. I believe his word is truth, and I compare everything I learn to it. Do I have confidence that God has made me a rational being with a healthy mind and the ability to discern? Sure. Do I believe he's given me a work ethic, given me desires, giving me passions, and called me to do certain things in my life? Of course. Do I believe in Phil? Like, oh yeah, I believe in myself. I'm able to do it. Well, apart from Christ, I'm able to do nothing. So, I believe that God will work out everything that happens to me for the good of me and my faith and my family, and will bring me to eternity with him. But if you're comparing, like, if you're the source of truth, then your truth's going to change all the time. And then there is no truth, right? So this is such an important point that you leaders got to realize. You have to figure out where you're going to go for your truth. For me, for Christians, their truth is found in God's word. That's it. Period. End of conversation. There's nothing else out there apart from God's word that they know to be true. Now, there's other things that are true, but how do you know they're true? Well, you have to compare them to, you have to test them. You have to test the spirits, whether they are from God, right? You can't just listen to people and figure out, oh, well, that's true and that's not, without comparing it to any sort of true thing. So I'm getting a little rambly. This is kind of a weird one today, I know, but man, this is such an important piece of mindset. If you're running into people or in a circle with people that are closed-minded people that believe what they're told, that regurgitate stuff that they just heard on a book or on TV, they don't test it with anything. They don't, they talk in absolutes, like, oh, this is for sure true. I know I'm right. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist for believing or even thinking about stuff outside of mainstream, whatever is shared in the mainstream. Those people are dangerous. And you really got to question your circle, because the real successful people that I know are open. They're open. They're open to new ideas, new thoughts, new opportunities. They can think for themselves. They don't think alike. They think for themselves and decide, hey, here's the information. I compare it to the sources of truth, the source of truth that I know to be true, and all the other information I have in my life. And then I decide. And again, we're human. That still might be wrong, but people that instantly dismiss and aren't even open, they're closed. Beware of these people. If you got them in your circle, just beware of them. Maybe limit your time around them, and just realize, like, people like that are constantly going to just poo poo your ideas. Why? Because they're closed. They have a closed mind, and they probably don't even know it. If you ask them, they'd probably think they had an open mind. But this is super important. Want you to hear it. Hopefully it brings value to you. Hopefully it helps you. And it may sound a little weird, maybe confusing. Again, I don't know everything. This is one perspective, right? Confident people are typically leaders, people that are very confident, very assertive. They know things to be true, right? And people follow them. Actually, there's been studies done that the people that are the most confident with how they present information, even if it's false, are more likely to be believed, right? So the way you share things matters. The way you share information is extremely important. And I'm working on this heavily. But when it comes down to it, when it's really a truth conversation, the substance is really what matters. So the world is constantly fighting against truth. It's saying, oh, it doesn't really matter what the content of your presentation is. It's how you present it. Well, guess what? It helps and is hugely important how you share the information. But ultimately, the important thing is what's true and what's not. And that's in the information. So I want you to think about that. Kind of a complex idea. I hope you got value out of that today. Love to hear from y'all. If you got value out of it, subscribe, follow, give this a rating, share it out with somebody else you think would get value from it. And remember, like the old TV genie from Aladdin that brainwashed me when I was a kid and one Saturday morning. Great minds think alike. No, great minds think for themselves. Go lead everything.